Let's get real for a moment. Most people hold on to things they have long outgrown, not because they need them, but because they're afraid of the emptiness that follows a goodbye. And they think if they let go, they feel lost. Yet there's the truth that emptiness is exactly where the magic begins. Welcome back to Telenovela Jasmin, and after all the dating secrets and the deep reset retreat vlogs, we're stepping into something we all face at the end of a year, the goodbyes. And you know how it goes. December arrives, and suddenly people rush to write resolutions, goals, new habits, the plans for next year, and they fill every blank space with plans. Here's the mistake: everyone tries to add something new without letting anything end. We're trained to fill space instead of holding space at some point, and that constant filling, that's why so many people stay stuck. Before we rush into what comes next, or who comes next, just want to say that we have to let go of what no longer fits. Real growth doesn't happen when you add something, it happens when you release what's finished. And goodbyes are not failures, they're just transitions, they're boundaries, they're clarity. And here's the part most people never ever learn: when you let something go, a role, a relationship, a version of yourself, even, you create space. A real open space, not meant to be filled immediately, not meant to be numbed with plans, people, or even distractions. That space is more of a pause, and your brain actually needs pauses. Your nervous system needs pauses. And even your life needs pauses. And I'm Yasmin. And after years of guiding transformations and watching people try to outrun emptiness, I can tell you one thing: emptiness isn't the enemy, it's the invitation. It's not a void, it's more of a doorway. And when you learn to sit with that space and to even allow that space to be there without rushing to fill it, something unexpected and genuinely new can enter your life. So, today I'm gonna share with you my personal four goodbyes from 2025, not to talk about endings, but to show you the emotions behind them, because that's the part that gets very interesting. And the emotions that I experienced with my goodbyes of 2025 are relief, acceptance, choosing yourself, and empowerment. And by the end of this episode, you won't just understand why goodbyes matter, because they do matter. You will feel ready to say your own goodbyes, even. So let's dive in and listen closely, because one of these goodbyes might be exactly the one you have been avoiding. Let's start with the first goodbye, and the easiest one to talk about, and at the same time, the one that taught me something essential about myself. I call it the relief goodbye. Relief, it's just not dramatic. It's not big tears or broken hearts. Relief is something way more quiet, it's more subtle, and it's that moment where your whole body kind of shouts, finally. And for me, this goodbye was actually my GmbH, what we call it in German. So it's a business structure that I started in Germany back in 2019. And I believed this would be my path to independence. I thought this is the way my life is gonna go. And in the beginning, yes, it was. It gave me an identity, it gave me purpose, something official to point to and say, this is mine, this is me, this is what I created. But here's the thing about things you build, sometimes they stop growing with you. And sometimes they actually keep you exactly where you no longer want to be. So for me, this GmbH kept me tied to Munich, to paperwork, to responsibilities that didn't feel aligned anymore. I spent 2 full years trying to dissolve it, organizing, rewriting structures, meetings, signatures, waiting, waiting, waiting. And then finally in October 2025, it was done. It was just done. It was finished, it was signed, it's closed. A whole chapter is closed, and I didn't feel excitement. I also didn't feel sadness. I just felt relief. That kind of relief that doesn't shout, it whispers. And here's the insight about that. Relief is a sign you have held on too long, like way too long. And most people will ignore that signal because it's so subtle. They also will maybe convince themselves, I've invested too much, I've put too many years into this, I can't just let it go now, I have to stuck with it a little bit longer. And so they keep carrying something that's quietly exhausting them. And we talk a lot about chasing happiness, but relief is actually the more honest emotion. Because relief is permission, relief is clarity, relief is a boundary your future self is begging you to draw. And this is where I want to invite you into something way deeper. Relief doesn't come from getting something. Relief comes from releasing something. And that's the big difference. When I closed the GmbH, I felt like taking off a huge backpack and what I had forgotten I was wearing. Have you ever had that feeling? You don't realize the weight, like really the weight you're carrying until it's finally gone. And only then you do understand how heavy it really was. So here's a question, and I want you to actually think about it, not just listen. What is the backpack you're carrying right now? A role, a commitment, an identity that once made sense, but no longer fits the person you have become. And relief is also not lazy. Relief is intelligence. Because it's the body saying something the mind refuses to admit for a long time. And letting go doesn't mean failure, because that's something we sometimes might think. Letting go means pure honesty. It means I did my part, I learned what I needed to learn, and now it's complete. So, with this first goodbye, I want you to remember something. Not everything that starts with excitement is meant to stay forever. Some things are meant to teach you something, give you a chapter, and then also an end. So the next goodbye we're stepping into is a little bit more difficult because I call it the acceptance goodbye. It's the goodbye that we ourselves cannot change. And it's different because it's even quieter, but at the same time is so much more heavier, not in feeling, but in truth. And this acceptance, it doesn't give you relief. Yes, it gives you clarity. And this one is about people. Can be family, friends, relationships, so people close around you. And most of my adult life, there were people that I tried to build contact. I mean, it was 10 years, 20 years of trying, of reaching out, of inviting, of explaining, of hoping, and always thinking maybe this time it will feel different. Maybe this time it will be real. And here's the honest truth, every attempt felt the same. Distance, misunderstanding, a pattern I didn't want to see. So I kept trying to change it. And that's what people mostly get wrong about acceptance. Acceptance is not giving up, because that's what we basically think most of the time. Acceptance is just no longer negotiating with reality. And sometimes I think we only see potential and life that we the kind of life that we want to have, or the relationship that we want to build, but it's just not possible. So we have to accept the reality. And I realized this year that yes, we are connected in a way, these people and I, but we are just not connected through values or through presence or through lived experiences, and that's okay. And I mean, for years I was disappointed, but the disappointment isn't sharp anymore. It's barely there anymore, because disappointment always belongs to hope. And this year, the hope was just gone. Not dramatically, just quietly, honestly, and that kind of feeling that you can still have hope, but it just doesn't make sense anymore. And when it happened, the acceptance came when I tried one last time. And it was really like that, because I mean, years ago, I was like, okay, that's it. And this year, there was one more attempt. So simply to make sure I wasn't closing something that needed to stay open. And then I saw it clearly. I mean, it was so clear that they will not change no matter what I do. And I do not need to keep trying to make it work anymore. And here's what acceptance really means: it's the goodbye without the argument, and it's the ending without the story. It's when you stop asking, why isn't it different? And simply say, this is how it is. And acceptance can feel almost plain. I do have to say that. No fireworks, no big emotion release, no crying, no laughing, no like screaming, shouting, whatever you would imagine here. Just reality. Finally seen clearly. So, not your reality, but the truth, the true reality. And sometimes clarity comes without emotion. That's still clarity, though. So I stopped trying, not out of anger, not out of resentment, but just out of understanding. Here's the part that I want you to take with you, because you can love people and still let go of the relationship with them. So you can accept someone for who they are and accept that you don't belong in each other's lives. Acceptance protects your energy. Acceptance frees you from repeating the same question over and over again. Acceptance gives you closure, not because something changed, but because you changed. And the acceptance goodbye isn't sad, it's just calm. It's the moment you stop trying to rewrite reality and start living from the truth instead. So, all right. So we talked about relief, the goodbye that sets down weight, and acceptance is the goodbye to what we cannot change. And from here, now we're moving into something more human, more complex, and more tender. So the third goodbye is one most people avoid. It's the one we justify, we postpone, we rationalize, because it doesn't feel logical, it feels personal. And I call this one the choosing yourself goodbye. Not choosing against someone, not walking away because something is wrong, but truly choosing yourself because something is true. There was someone I loved, and the love was real. No question, no doubt. And for a long time, I thought love was enough. So we start at the same point, same energy, same excitement, same direction. But here's the thing about love: nobody tells you two lives can start together and grow into completely different directions. And I want to say this clearly: when a relationship ends, it doesn't mean that you have failed. Sometimes it just means you have evolved. For us, life opened two roads, and it was his road and it was my road. Both valid, both beautiful, but just not the same. And this is the moment the lesson surfaced: love is not enough. Especially if it costs you your future self. And yes, we had potential, we had history, we had memories that felt so soft and so real and so good. And yet, when I looked at the life that I wanted to build for myself, a life with softness, with freedom, with openness, with feminine energy, I saw myself shrinking to fit his rhythm. And choosing myself wasn't loud. It wasn't a huge breakup scene. It wasn't a dramatic closure. It was also not even talking about so much. It was just that quiet moment again. And it was more like, I love you, but I love myself even more. And I think this is what most people just don't understand, that choosing yourself is not selfish. Choosing yourself is a spiritual responsibility that we all have. And when we stay in something just because we love someone, we forget the other side of love. How do you love yourself in this story? Where does your joy live in this love relationship? Where does your truth breathe? And here's the thing that made this goodbye possible: I realized I wasn't closing a door to love. I was opening a door to becoming more myself and the version of myself that I want to be. And this goodbye taught me something crucial. You can walk away from someone and still keep the love. Love doesn't disappear just because the relationship changes or ends. And choosing yourself means you don't force a life that doesn't feel like yours. You don't shrink your dreams to fit someone else's future. And also, you stop performing compatibility. A lot of people stay in relationships because they are scared of the space afterwards. Because, space feels uncertain, and space means possibility, and space can ask, who am I now? What do I really want? I want to tell you something I learned this year. The space you gain after choosing yourself, it's just not emptiness and feeling lost. It's full potential to choosing yourself, to becoming a new version of yourself. And it's not about letting someone go, it's about letting yourself fully bloom. And yeah, relief, acceptance, and now choosing yourself. What do you think comes next? The hardest goodbye of it all. So, the fourth goodbye is the one that shakes the way you live, the way you rest, the way you think you need to survive. This fourth goodbye is the goodbye I call empowerment, and it's letting go of stress as identity. And my story began back in May 2025. And to be quite honest, this is a story I told not so many people. And this story is very important to me because, it's a goodbye that forces you to see your own patterns so clearly without any excuses. And, you know, for me, it was a normal day. I was working and I was in between meetings. So I was walking towards my car, and on the way, I stopped in a shop. And without warning, without building up, it was just this one moment where my body said stop, and I collapsed in that shop. And I woke up in the hospital. So suddenly my world became doctors, appointments, tests, waiting rooms, 6 months of questions with no answers where it was coming from. And at first, it was fear. I was so scared. I mean, it was such a quiet fear because I almost didn't tell anyone. And, it was that kind of fear that sits in your stomach and asks, what if something is really wrong? And here's what I learned: nothing was wrong. I mean, luckily, I did a lot of tests. And now, like really 6 months later, in November 2025, it turned out that me collapsing was stress. It was no genetics, no bad luck, no disease. It was just stress. And it's that kind of stress that we kind of normalize. That stress that also a little bit became our identity, a way of living, a badge of capability, a habit of I can handle this. And I forgot something essential. Your body always knows the truth before your mind is ready to admit it. And my body was done. And so this goodbye wasn't a person or a place or business. It was a goodbye to a version of myself who ran on stress, on urgency, on performance, on responsibility, always being fine, always being strong, always being available, always being there for others. And here's what empowerment really actually looks like, not the social media version of it, but the real lived physical empowerment. It means you finally stop operating like crisis is normal. And yes, you allow yourself to breathe without needing a reason for it. You stop earning rest, you start living rest. I had spent years teaching yoga, guiding others towards softness, breath, awareness, while I secretly lived in a constant state of alertness. And collapsing is not a failure, it's just a message from my body saying, you're not supposed to live this fast. And here's where empowerment came in. I choose to listen. I choose to change. I choose to create space, not in my calendar, but also in my mind. I started letting go of all the urgency, letting go of this whole just one more thing, letting go of filling every blank space in my calendar. And empowerment is not pushing through, because I think we confuse that sometimes. Empowerment is allowing yourself to stop and to rest and to just be. And your nervous system, it cannot live on emergency mode forever. It has to pause. And it will otherwise it will shut you down, and it will force you to stillness. And if you refuse to choose it, it will choose for you. And so the fourth goodbye was saying goodbye to stress as identity. It was letting go of being strong all the time and letting go of urgency as a personality. And in the end, nothing was wrong with me, and except the belief that I need to keep going. And after 6 months of tests, of uncertainty, and when I finally got the clarity in November that I'm healthy and I'm fine and everything is good, my body was just asking for a different life. And that's what I did. And this goodbye taught me something very simple, but also very essential. If you don't give yourself time to rest, your body will take it from you. And this empowerment goodbye, it's deliberating. It is choosing to live in a way that allows your body, your mind, even your energy to feel safe. And the most powerful part of that goodbye, after that whole health scare, I realized I needed a daily reset, a way to truly heal and put my well being first. And that's exactly why and how my Deep Reset Journal was born. So I started creating these 12 simple daily exercises, little rituals, little routines to come back to myself. And I did them every day after, the moment I was home from the hospital, the day after I started. And I did all of these routines before I was answering emails, before I did something or anything for someone else. And I made these practices my priority. I made myself my priority. And they were my way to heal, to stay healthy, and to live from a place of real presence. So, when I talk about empowerment, it's not just about letting go of stress, it's about creating a new rhythm for yourself and one that honors your well being every single day. That's what the Deep Reset Journal is all about. A daily practice of putting yourself first so that you can live with more softness, more presence, and more genuine health. And now, as we come to the close of the episode, remember that each goodbye we've talked about isn't just an ending, it's a beginning of a new way of living, one where you have the tools to care for yourself deeply. So let's wrap this up and step into that new beginning together. So these are my 4 goodbyes of 2025: relief, acceptance, choosing yourself, and empowerment. And here's something I realized while living through all of them. Every goodbye is also a beginning. Not the dramatic kind of beginning, and also not the new year, new me kind of beginning. It's more of an honest kind of beginning that you feel in your everyday life. And, saying goodbye to weight, to roles, to expectations, to stress even. It just creates space, real space, silent space, space I don't want to feel immediately, a space I learned to sit with. And in that space, something unexpected started growing. And that's actually the lesson I want to leave with you today. We don't heal by doing more, we heal by doing less, and also doing it with attention. So before you step into the rest of December and whatever 2026 becomes for you, I want you to invite you into something simple and honestly something very human. Don't rush to fill the space. Don't run from emptiness. Let it be there. Let it sink in a little bit. Because this is the time of the year when everyone tries to fix themselves, to improve, to optimize, to become something. And maybe this year, it's not about adding. Maybe it's about letting go. Let go of the version of yourself who needs to know everything. To let go of the noise, let go of filling every hour with something productive, let go of trying to say the same for other people. And always remember that goodbyes are not endings, they're just pauses, and pauses are so powerful and so intelligent and the beginning of presence. So if one of my goodbyes touched something in you, write it down, sit with it. Don't rush to solve it even. Just notice it. And thank you for being here for episode 16. And thank you for listening, for reflecting, for being brave enough to consider the space you don't have to fill. And we'll continue next week. And until then, maybe let something end and don't replace it. Just breathe. Until then, bye-bye, ciao, ciao.